Earlier in the week, I released a video where I holidayed FM22 100 years in the future and then had a look to see what happened. If you want to see that video, there's a link to it down in the description below. In this video, though, we've kept the holiday rolling on. We've now gone 200 years into the future on FM22. We want to see what happens next. And arguably most importantly of all, we want to see if Annabelle is still manager of Brentford. Hello folks and welcome to FM22 200 years in the future. I'm Kev. We've holidayed forward 200 years. If you're excited by that, leave me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, notifications on, all that kind of good stuff. You can buy the game from a link in the description below as well at a lovely old discount, but none of that's particularly important because the most important thing is it's May 22-21 and Annabelle Malden is still the interim manager of Brentford. This is obviously a bug. She's been the interim manager of Brentford now for 140 years, 150 years. It's still showing her as only 100 years old. That I know, that's been in FM for years, where the ages max out at 100. It doesn't matter how far past you go, the age will never go beyond 100. So that makes sense. What doesn't make sense is the fact that because she became interim manager, presumably what's happened here is she became interim manager and she was successful straight away. So they didn't hire another manager, but for whatever reason didn't hire her permanently. But because she's an interim manager, they're not going to sack her. She's not going to retire. So she's now been the manager of Brentford for 152 years. She's only won the league 14 times in that period, 54 cup wins. So it's not actually as impressive as I thought it was going to be for her. In fact, if we have a look at the history of Brentford, they've kind of fallen off a little bit as she's made it, as she's hit her 200th birthday. We did see a long period of dominance from Brentford towards the end of the first 100 years. You can see they won a lot of Premier League titles there. I mean, they've been a fixture in the Premier League for a long time. A couple of dodgy seasons there where I think as a permanent manager, maybe you get sacked. Just imagine the media there, questions being asked as a 130-year-old Annabelle Malden, who's been in the job 80 years, starts to have a little bit of wobble. People question, is she maybe past it? Of course she's not. She's going to be manager for another 80 years. But I don't think Brentford ever won the Premier League again during that time. So maybe the ones who were accusing her of having a wobble back then maybe were right, because they've just had 80 years of not quite being good enough. A few second and third place finishes there. She's built another good Brentford team at that point. But ultimately, she's an old lady who's never been given the job permanently and still only earns 30 grand a week, bless her. Presumably on a rolling contract. Expires. Does she get a new contract each year, or is it actually expiring? Is it a month-to-month thing? So she's officially on a contract as the assistant manager. So her contract is as assistant manager, but she's working as interim manager. It's just a glitch, isn't it? It's a big old glitch. But Annabelle Malden, still Brentford manager. Glitches aside, let's look through the rest of this, assuming everything is working the way it should be. And we're not going to focus. Oh, my word, Posher in the Champions League. That's even bigger news than Annabelle. Oh, that's fantastic stuff. And we've got the top scorer in the Premier League as well. Oh, Deng Tianyu, my hero. Why have you not played for China, you wonderful, wonderful man? Look at that career trajectory he's had. But China have never given him a China just the best team in the world by a million miles. We know there's dynamic youth development, dynamic youth ratings in FM22. And I think this is an example of it in action. And because China have got the world ranking of second in the world, and they've got players throughout Europe's top clubs and Everton, and the Premier League's top scorer at 27 years old, playing for a Champions League team in the Premier League, isn't even good enough to get into the Chinese national team. We will have a look at that kind of stuff shortly. First, we will carry on looking through the Premier League, just because to me, it's interesting to go through who is where and what's going on. But as a Peterborough fan, I've got to see what's gone on here, because this is a thing of beauty. This is lovely stuff. Did we actually win it at any point? No, it looks... Oh, hold on. What's that? First place, is that in the Championship? That is in the Championship. So we've spent a long time in the Premier League. but we've very much, I mentioned in the 100 years video that it looked like Posh had become the West Brom of the future. And I mean, if there's never been a more West Brom looking league history than that 20-year period there. Too good for the Championship, not good enough for the Premier League. But it looks like at some point over this extended 25-year spell in the top flight, we've not only become good enough for the Premier League, we've actually broken into the Champions League just a couple of times. It's not been a regular thing, but a couple of times now, getting into the Champions League. It's beautiful. 1-time FA Cup winners, 14-time Championship winners, 2-time Papa John's. Beautiful. Won the 100% record in the Community Shield as well. And Posher in Europe. Let's have a look at our European, there you go, Champions League history. We've only been in it once before. So we've qualified for Europe for the second time, or qualified for the Champions League. There's been a few other European campaigns. Not very many, only 5 times in the history of the save. But it's the perfect time now because it's the 200-year anniversary. It's when we're having a look. So Chelsea Premier League champions, Ipswich, Posh, Brighton, the other Champions League qualifiers, Everton, Leeds, Man City also getting into Europe. This doesn't look too weird. I said in the last video that it's sometimes you expect to see like non-league teams making it up to this level, or the big teams absolutely crumbling and falling through the leagues. That seems less likely to happen on FM22. I mean, we've got Mansfield up into the Premier League here, which I guess is the biggest outlier of all of this. But there's nothing that strikes you as absolutely bonkers about that, I don't think. Even Posh, I mean, we're in the Championship now in real life. It's not like we've charged up from non-league. Arsenal being in the Championship, I guess, is an interesting one. For quite a long time as well. Arsenal had that huge long run of never being relegated since 1915, but then got relegated in, blimey, 2198, and have not really been back in the Premier League very much since. They've become Nottingham Forest. That's what's happened there. Sunderland winning the Championship. It looks like we're still waiting for a playoff final to happen. Chesterfield up to this level as well. Maidstone. There's, again, nothing really. I mean, Arsenal is odd, but they're still top half of the Championship. It's not completely unrealistic that could happen to a team like Arsenal. Yeah, I don't know. I wanted more weirdness. It's got to be said. Leicester down in League One with Forest. Again, not absolutely bonkers that could happen. I remember playing Leicester in League One not very long ago. Forest could have been relegated this year until they sacked their manager. Who else have we got? Eastleigh and Dover up at this level. Norwich down here as well. Charlton, West Brom. West Brom getting relegated into League Two. And then if we have a look at League Two, so Forest got promoted from League Two in the previous year. So Forest looks like they've had an interesting... So in fact, Forest dropped down into non-league for a little while. Wow. Everything fell apart at Forest there, and they are climbing back up with consecutive promotions. So Forest turning things around a little bit at the Brian Clough Arena. So I guess that's quite an interesting story. Who else have we got? We're looking for a big team that's fallen a long way. Haringey being in the league, I feel like that's unexpected. Dropping down into the conference, looking for Premier League teams at this level. That's what we want to see. There's none here. Oh, Bournemouth are in the conference. Beautiful. McDonald's relegated from the conference as well. Oh, it just keeps getting better and better. What have we got in the Conference North? Any really southern teams would make me happy in here. Doesn't look like there are any. Northampton in the Conference North is, as a Peterborough fan, lovely stuff. And then lastly, in the Conference South, again, nothing bonkers. A little bit disappointed by the lack of bonkers. Let's have a look at past winners of the Premier League then. So we'll go back to the end of the 100 years save, which was when Liverpool was still being dominant, but QPR and Brentford were just starting to wrestle away some control. And it looks like Man City, Liverpool, QPR, Arsenal still winning the Premier League as recently as then. And there, in fact, Arsenal had a really good run in the 40s, a really, really good run. So they really have collapsed to find themselves now as a championship team. I mean, they got relegated 20 years after that happened. So something went massively wrong at Arsenal, it seems. But then Newcastle getting involved as well. Newcastle look like they've won the Premier League quite a few times. If we have a look at, so 15 times Champions League winners, Newcastle. Wow. That makes their one-time Anglo-Italian Cup win look insignificant almost. But 28 times FA Cup winners, 24-time Premier League winners. None of this is because of the recent takeover in real life. If you look at that, the first Premier League win didn't happen until 20 years in the future. The first Champions League win was 2073. But Newcastle, just a big European superpower in this world, it seems, which, fair enough, I guess. Look at that from Brighton. Brighton winning, 8 in a row? So huge period of dominance from Brighton in there. In fact, we've got to see what Brighton's record is, because Brighton seem to be around and about the place a lot. 10 times European Cup winners, 22-time Premier League winners, 5 times World Club Cup winners, and of course, the all-important 2 times Papa John's Trophy. So Brighton having a lovely old time of things. Someone said in the comments to the last video, the one thing that's really noticeable about this is there's just no sign of Manchester United being any good ever. Which is true, actually. Looking at this, I'm not seeing any. We all talk about Manchester United being overpowered in FM year on year. Maybe they are still in the short term because they've got a very, very good squad. But looking at this as a long-term view, I'm looking for any sign of Manchester United in these top threes. It doesn't really happen beyond this decade that we're currently in. They just become a really mediocre, like lower half Premier League team. They never won another Champions League. They only won two Premier Leagues in 200 years. Things went wrong for Manchester United, didn't they? Yikes. They're no Brighton in this universe, that's for sure. Right, let's have a look at the Champions League just to see who's been winning that. Then we're going to have a look at like the World Cup, world rankings, that kind of thing, to see what impact this dynamic youth rating has. An Ipswich Paris Saint-Germain final. What more could you ask for? This is an Ipswich team who have already won the Champions League twice before, recently as well. They are one of Europe's big teams now. It's still only the 3 Premier League wins. But again, they're having a current real nice run of form. So Ipswich in with a chance of adding another Champions League to their tally. But if we look at the past winners, we're looking for bonkers. We're looking for absurd Champions League winners. I think Ipswich potentially go into that category. But it'll be interesting to see if we get any weird teams from other countries, bearing in mind that the English leagues are the only ones loaded. So the other countries are likely to not have had as much significant change. A story like Ipswich couldn't happen in Bundesliga because when you don't have the leagues loaded, it can only promote teams from one division below. So Ipswich being in League One never would have made it to the top flight if the English league wasn't loaded. And here they are as one of the best teams in Europe. It does seem to be fairly heavily dominated by English teams, I guess, as you would expect. Brighton just really regularly picking up Champions League wins. Brighton are just, they are one of the biggest clubs in the world, it seems. Sometimes it's fun to see what kind of stadiums clubs like that are playing in, because they do just tend to get bigger and bigger. Yeah, the Nicolo Orifice Arena. What a name. A real person? No, so I can mock him for being called Orifice. Fantastic. Imagine. I know you're the biggest football club in the world, but you're literally playing in a ground called the Orifice Arena. Just off down the Orifice, lads. What is happening? 123,000 capacity orifice. That is a big orifice. That's for sure. Yeah. Nice little mix of Champions League winners there. I just want to look at the other stadiums now. I've had a look. Stadium sizes, capacities. Wow, what a variety there. Liverpool playing in the 9,000 capacity Kylian Mbappe Arena. Newcastle in the 9,000 capacity Huey Gallagher Stadium. Meanwhile, you've got the Orifice Arena at 123. Bert Troutman Park for Man City, 122. The Fred Gerrard Chelsea Ground, 119. Annabelle's House, 104. McDonald's, 100,000 for QPR. Old Trafford still exists inexplicably, but has gotten smaller, 74,000. How? I mean, you've still got Old Trafford, the London Stadium, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, Ellen Road. Selhurst Park still exists. The DW Stadium is still there. It's weird which grounds get rebuilt and which don't. I love Football Manager oh so very much. But let's look at the World Cup and the world rankings and things just to see this dynamic youth ranking thing in action. So when we were doing the 100 years in the future, China and Bulgaria were just starting to emerge as the world powers. It looks like that's continued. Bulgaria and China again there. Bulgaria and China. Belarus winning a World Cup. China with Belarus as runners-up. Bulgaria going back-to-back again. Bulgaria and China again. China and Belarus. Bulgaria doing 3 in a row. China runner-up once. So Bulgaria, it looks like, are the best team in the world. Bulgaria, world ranking number 1. They've 18 times World Cup winners, Bulgaria. That's what happens with a dynamic youth rating. You just become an absolute unstoppable superpower, seemingly from nowhere. In fact, let's have a look at the world rankings. So world ranking, Bulgaria, China, Brazil are up there. England, as always, because it's Football Manager. Switzerland, Croatia, Belarus, Spain, Argentina, France, Portugal. So it's not mad 200 years in the future, but it is interesting to see Bulgaria and China just absolutely dominating world football for the best part of 150 years, 5 times World Cup winners, China. And what I think is interesting is there's no sign in the United States. You would think they would have stormed this, but the United States, only 47th best team in the world, 1 World Cup runner-up, and it's 13 years from now. So US football never really established itself properly looking at that. But yeah, there's your example of dynamic youth rankings in action. If we look at Bulgaria's best player, Pavel Marinov, 30-year-old left back for Bulgaria. There you go. That's what the best player in the world looks like for an 18 times world champions team. And the Bulgarian First League, I bet it's still all dominated. It's not just dominated by one club. I think when we looked at it early on, it was always Ludogorets. Yeah. It looks like they've got themselves a second club in CSKA Sofia, who have won quite a few titles recently. And Slavia Sofia are up there as well. Botev Plovdiv. So yeah, Bulgaria is where it's at. If you want to do a Football Manager save, building a nation save, just do it in Bulgaria. Magic is going to happen there, boys and girls. I don't know if there's anything else we need to look at. I guess we could. No, you know what? I think we've looked at everything. We don't need to dwell on this for too long. What I will do, because a couple of people have asked, I'll put the save file available for you to download and have a rummage around yourself if you want to. So the save file will be there available to download. I don't think I'm going to go any further than this, purely because we kind of know where this is going now. Bulgaria and China are dominant. Annabelle's going to manage Brentford forever. I don't think we need to go 300, 400, 500 years in the future and just see a further continuation of the same thing. But that is Football Manager 200 years in the future. If you've enjoyed it, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. And thank you very much for watching.